Chesterpurswurst. I am 73 years old, and if there is one thing that 7 decades of breathing teaches you, it is that the world prefers you to stay in your lane. We are conditioned from the moment we can grasp a pencil to follow a specific linear trajectory. But I am standing here today to tell you something that will likely sit uncomfortably in your gut. Almost everything you have been told about the proper way to age
Right.
and the proper way to live is a fundamental lie. It is a fabrication designed to keep the gears of society turning, often at the direct expense of your own pulse.
You see, at 73, I have become invisible to most of you. Society treats the elderly like a library book that has been checked out too many times. The spine is cracked, the pages are yellowed, and we are tucked away in the back corner to gather dust. But that invisibility is exactly where my power comes from. I am no longer part of the climb. I am standing at the top of the mountain looking down at all of you still scrambling in the fog, and I can see the cliffs you're about to walk off. When I say that everything you know is wrong, I'm not talking about facts or figures. I'm talking about the collective mythology of someday. We are raised by parents who were terrified of instability, taught by teachers who were paid to produce workers, and marketed to by corporations that profit from our insecurities. They all whisper the same mantra: sacrifice today for a tomorrow that is guaranteed. They tell you that if you just check the boxes, the degree, the title, the mortgage, the Roth IRA, that happiness will be waiting for you like a trophy at the finish line. But here is the secret they are either too afraid to tell you or too blind to see themselves. The finish line is a ghost. It doesn't exist. I spent 50 years believing that if I played by the rules, I would eventually earn the right to be happy. I followed the blueprint to the letter. I was the success story your parents talk about at dinner parties. Yet I discovered that the system is rigged to keep you waiting. Why would society want you to be content now? Contented people don't buy things they don't need. They don't work 80-hour weeks to impress people they don't like. The common wisdom isn't there to protect you. It's there to protect the status quo. I am making this because I am running out of sand in my hourglass, and the clarity that comes with that realization is terrifying. There is a specific truth about time that you cannot see while you are in the thick of your productive years. I need to open an information gap in your mind, a hole that won't be filled until you understand why your current path is leading you toward a very quiet, very polite kind of misery. You think you have time. You think the rules are there for your benefit. You are wrong. And if you don't listen to what I discovered in the wreckage of my own perfect life, you will wake up at 73 wondering where the person you were meant to be went. Now that I have told you about my wake-up call, I need to name the thief that stole my first 50 years. It is a lie so pervasive, so deeply embedded in our culture that we don't even recognize it as a deception. We treat it as a comfort. That lie is the phrase, "I have time." I see it every day. I see it in the way my former students talk about their 5-year plans. I see it in the frantic eyes of 30-somethings who are grinding now so they can relax later. This is the great villain of the human story, the myth of someday. We treat our lives like a bank account where we can deposit all our joy, all our curiosity, and all our love into a high-yield savings account called retirement, assuming we will be allowed to withdraw it with interest when we're 65. But life doesn't pay interest. It only collects rent. The villain tells you, when I make more money, then I'll be happy. It whispers, when I get that promotion, then I'll take that trip. When the kids are grown, then I'll finally write that book. This is a psychological trap designed to keep you in a state of perpetual becoming rather than being. You are always chasing a horizon that recedes as fast as you move toward it. I know this because I lived it. I reached the "when I get X" milestone a dozen times, and every single time the goalposts moved. The promotion arrived, and suddenly I needed the senior partnership. The house was bought, and suddenly I needed the vacation home. The danger of this lie is that it feels like responsibility. We tell ourselves we are being mature by putting off our dreams. But at 73, I can tell you the brutal truth. That day you are waiting for, the day when the stars align, the bills are paid, and the perfect time arrives, never comes. It is a mirage. We are all gambling with a currency we don't realize is non-renewable. You think you are trading your time for money or status, but you are actually trading the only thing you truly own for things that will be sold at an estate sale a month after you're gone. When you say, "I'll do it later," you are making a massive assumption that later is a place you are invited to. My friend, the multimillionaire who died at 68 after a lifetime of 70-hour weeks, believed in later. He died with a briefcase full of plans for a later he never saw. The villain is the illusion of the future. It robs you of the present by making you believe the present is just a stepping stone. I wasted half a century climbing a ladder leaning against the wrong wall because I believed the lie. I thought the view from the top would justify the misery of the climb. It didn't. The only thing at the top of that ladder was the realization that I had spent my life waiting to start it. In my years in the academy, we spoke often of legacy. We measured it in endowments, in libraries named after donors, and in the impact factor of our research. I lived for that measure of immortality. But as I sat at the funeral of a colleague and dear friend, a man who had built a multi-million-dollar consultancy after leaving his tenure, I saw the bankruptcy of that definition. His son stood at the podium, his voice devoid of the warmth one would expect. He didn't talk about the business his father built or the legacy of his wealth. He simply said, "My father was a very successful man, but I barely knew him." That sentence hung in the air like a terminal diagnosis. It forced me to look at the two different types of legacies we leave behind, the resume legacy and the table legacy. The resume legacy is what people say about you when they want to impress others. It is a list of trophies, titles, and acquisitions. It is impressive, yes, but it is cold. It has no pulse. The table legacy, however, is what is felt by the people who actually sat across from you at dinner. It is the memory of your presence, your laughter, your undivided attention. It is the way your children feel when they hear your name. I had spent 30 years polishing my resume legacy, while my table legacy was gathering dust. I had achieved everything I set out to achieve. I made partner, I bought the house, I earned the chair. And you know what? None of it mattered the moment the hospital gown went on. You achieve a goal, and for about 48 hours, you feel like a god. Then the feeling evaporates. You are back to baseline, and you start looking for the next hit of validation. It is a hamster wheel made of gold, but it is a hamster wheel nonetheless. Your regrets at 73 won't be about the business deals that fell through or the promotions you missed. They will be about the trips you never took because you were too busy being important. They will be about the phone calls you didn't make to your parents before they died. They will be about the person you could have been if you weren't so occupied trying to be the person everyone else expected. After my heart attack, I had to develop a new way of evaluating my time. I had to stop asking, "Is this productive?" and start asking, "Is this meaningful?" This led me to a question that I now want to pose to you, a question that is uncomfortable, perhaps even morbid, but absolutely essential for anyone who wants to stop sleepwalking through their existence. If you were to die tomorrow, would you be satisfied with the life you've lived so far? I don't mean, would people be impressed by your obituary? I don't mean, did you hit your KPIs? I mean, in the quiet, dark corners of your own soul, would you feel that you had actually inhabited your life? Most of us live our lives as if we are writing a first draft that we will fix later. We treat the present as a rehearsal for a grand opening that never happens. If your answer to that question is no, then I have to ask you, what are you waiting for? What is so important about your current busyness that you are willing to gamble your one and only life on it? We are experts at self-deception. We tell ourselves that we are making necessary sacrifices, but a sacrifice is only virtuous if it leads to something of greater value. Sacrificing your health, your relationships, and your joy for the sake of a corporate machine or a societal standard of success isn't a sacrifice, it's a tragedy. I want you to sit with that dissatisfaction. Don't push it away with a glass of wine or a mindless scroll through your phone. That feeling of no is the most honest thing you own. It is the compass pointing toward the life you are supposed to be living. If you aren't satisfied, it means you are currently living someone else's version of your life. I am not suggesting you quit your job tomorrow and move to a mountain. We all have bills, we all have obligations. What I am suggesting is a radical shift in your internal hierarchy of values. I am telling you to start saying no to the things that drain your spirit so you can say yes to the things that fill it. Start now, not after the next project, not when the kids are older. Now. Start by calling your parents, if they are still here. Don't talk about your work, talk about your memories. Start taking those trips you've bookmarked for someday. The world is changing and your body is aging. The version of you that can climb those mountains or walk those streets has an expiration date. Start doing the things that scare you, the book you wanted to write, the hobby you abandoned because it wasn't useful, the apology you've been holding on to for a decade. Stop waiting for permission to live. Society will never give it to you. The system is designed to keep you productive, not happy. You have to seize your joy with both hands and defend it fiercely. This means setting boundaries that people might find unprofessional. It means prioritizing a Tuesday afternoon walk with your spouse over a crucial conference call. It means realizing that you are a human being, not a human doing. In these last 21 years, I have learned that the richest parts of life are embarrassingly simple. A quiet morning, a deep conversation, the feeling of being fully present in a room with people you love. Everything else, the titles, the money, the accolades, is just noise. I am 73 years old. If I am blessed, I may have 10 or 15 years left, perhaps less. I wake up every morning acutely aware that I am on borrowed time. But here is the irony. I'm happier now with a shrinking future than I ever was at 30 when I thought I was immortal. The awareness of death is the greatest gift you can give your life. When you realize the clock is ticking, you stop wasting time on things that don't matter. You stop holding grudges. You stop worrying about what strangers think of you. You start living intentionally. You have a choice today. You can finish reading this and go right back to the grind, back to the lie that later will be better. Or you can wake up. You can realize that you are currently standing in the middle of your life and it is passing you by at a rate of 60 seconds per minute. I look at my grandchildren and I see them starting the same race I ran. I try to tell them, but they are in the storm of youth. They think they have forever. You might think you have forever too, but I am here from the finish line to tell you you don't. Don't wait until you're 73 to figure this out. Don't wait for a heart attack to tell you that you've been climbing the wrong ladder. Live the life you want to look back on. Start living it today. because the perfect time is a myth, but the present moment is a miracle. What are you going to do with yours?